hardcore ain't going anywhere.
Well, yeah, but you know, when they're gonna
I want to see if those activists return, the ones that you say set up this as a protest originally.
Well, that's why you have to keep monitoring with a patrol. That's what they're doing on the boardwalk. LAPD is actually helping out on the Venice boardwalk, and they shut it's their jurisdiction, and they're keeping people who are trying to set up new tents away. They're dispersing them. So that's what you got to do. That's what adults have to do. It's real life. Of course, you're going to have these people come back and try again and try again, but you just keep saying nope, out, out. That's all. Just enforce the law until they get exhausted and quit. And if they don't quit, then that's what you got to do every day.
All right, last week, Governor Newsom announced that students have to be vaccinated against COVID-19, provided there is a vaccine available, and there will be eventually for everybody 5 years and older, eventually. He didn't really describe the criteria, and of course, what they're debating now is what kind of exemptions to allow. Under California law, students are allowed to skip vaccines required for in-person attendance at K through 12 if a doctor says it's medically necessary to do so. But because the law only applies to previously approved immunizations, the state has to offer broader, what they call personal belief exemptions for all newly mandated vaccines, unless they do something in Sacramento. So that's what they're debating now, this personal belief exemption, which they carved out of there a few years back of the vaccines that existed, but now this is a new vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, so they're going to have to carve out, they're going to have to eliminate.
So is Newsom signing something that eliminates personal
hasn't happened
exemptions?
And hasn't even been drawn up yet.
Like, were they forced to issue this policy that allows for it, I guess?
Yeah, because that's the law.
Oh, that's the law.
Words,
all right, so
right.
he was just...
All newly mandated vaccines allow personal belief exemptions unless they purposely pull them out of there.
All right, so this is not necessarily his policy, but this is what the law requires.
That's right.
Nice.
And it's expected, because it's Newsom and the Democrats, that they're probably going to pull the personal belief exemption from the COVID-19 vaccine, because they're concerned too many parents and kids will use it, and then they don't have enough people vaccinated in the school.
Personal belief, I mean, clearly we got, 25...
As it's stated, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at least with the medical one, you do have to get a doctor to sign off, and it may be fake, but it is. But with the personal belief exemption, you just sign a paper. Personally, I do not believe in this vaccine.
Yeah, well...
Now, when Jerry Brown was governor, that's when they had a bill. Previous requirements for obtaining a personal belief exemption were removed from state law. But that was only good for existing immunizations, you see. Now we have the COVID vaccine is brand new, so they have to actually write another bill that doesn't allow it. That's the trick that they're up against here. And by the way, this story in the El Segundo Times does say that the teachers do have to comply as well. There was a report last week that Newsom was only announcing a vaccine mandate for students. But as I read this story, it sounds like the teachers, too, and the staff are going to have to obey the vaccine mandate, because the belief was, well, once again, he's giving the teachers' union people a break. Maybe they just said some of our teachers don't want to be vaccinated.
That's what that story indicated. I didn't understand it, but, there's a lot of incompetent news reporters these days.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell. It's hard to trust anything. But you know that. There's only 7% of you left who trust the news. So.
All right, when we come back, we're going to have an opportunity to talk to a man that's making news. Dr. Christopher B. Rake was escorted out of the UCLA Medical Plaza in Westwood by 3 people. He made a video of himself being escorted out because he will not be vaccinated, and they told him that you cannot work here. He's an anesthesiologist. We'll talk to him next.
Yes, and we'll play you the clip, too, of him getting evicted. John and Ken Show, KFI, and Mark Runner has the news.
The Coast Guard says video of the pipeline that spilled thousands of gallons of oil into the ocean off Huntington Beach suggests the initial damage to the pipeline happened months ago. Captain Jason Neubauer says video shows the 13-inch gash in the pipeline and marine growth around it.
That has refocused the frame and time frame of our investigation to at least several months to a year ago.
He says the pipeline was surveyed by the company in October and was intact at that time.
Since October 2020, the pipeline has deflected 105 feet, and we have casing damage, and then, of course, the crack.
He says investigators are now going through a year's worth of data to try and figure out what happened. Newport Harbor and Dana Point Harbor have been reopened with restrictions in some areas. The harbors had been closed because of the spill last weekend. News brought to you by Semper Solaris. And you'll be hearing about this more with John and Ken next. As they said, an anesthesiologist who works for UCLA Health has been escorted out of his workplace because he is unvaccinated against COVID-19.
My body, my choice. I have the right to decide.
Dr. Christopher Rake got the boot Monday when he was at work at Westwood. In Westwood, getting vaccinated is a requirement to work in person for UCLA Health. Rake says he's standing up for freedom and is willing to lose everything, including his job, even his life.
This is the greatest human rights abuse in our time.
Rake also says he's considering legal action. 2 women have been shot and killed at an affordable housing building for senior citizens in Maryland.
The violence that we're seeing now, it is depravity is one word that's associated with it.
The shooting happened just after 9 this morning. Prince George's County Deputy Chief Lakina Webster says a barricade situation was called and a conflict management team was activated.
They were able to locate the suspect, and at that time, the suspect was apprehended and taken into custody without incident.
She says the reason for the shooting is not yet known. And another first for California. It's become the first state to outlaw stealthing.
That's the term given to the act of removing a condom without verbal consent during intercourse. Governor Newsom signed the bill into law yesterday. It amends the state's civil definition of sexual battery, making stealthing a civil offense and giving victims the grounds to sue. The state's civil code already makes those who commit sexual battery liable for damages. Assemblywoman Christina Garcia sponsored the bill. She says she's been trying to make it a crime since 2017, when a Yale University study found acts of stealthing were increasing against both women and gay men. Layla Muhammad, KFI News.
Let's check out a slowdown on the 210 in Monrovia.
On the westbound side, that's where we're seeing a backup getting away from Huntington Drive. Delays taking you all the way to Fair Oaks and Pasadena. We've got Mike O'Brien checking out Westminster. KFI in the Sky, sponsored by Injury Attorney, SuperwomanSuperLawyer.com.
Yeah, big mess here, Angel. Good spot to avoid for sure. This is the 405 southbound, just approaching Golden West. Carpool, 2 left lanes are blocked. It is now bumper to bumper well into Seal Beach, and it's really, for all intents and purposes, it's going to catch slowing that starts way back out of the west side at about Sunset Boulevard. The only good pocket is going to be right around LAX there. Now, it looks like a problem still brewing out in Ontario. That is the 10 eastbound approaching the 15 at Milliken. Looks like 2 separate wrecks, one maybe in the left, one in the second from the left, but the bottom line is that's a 1-2 punch. Buffalo and Ford Mountain. Injured in an accident. Visit SuperWomanSuperLawyer.com. Michael O'Brien, KFI in the Sky.
In Irvine, the 5 northbound slowing down away from Make that Culver Drive all the way to the 5722. KFI